to week 10 of Talking Bama with Big C. I'm your host, Colin Big C McGuire. I was a manager on Coach Bryant's last 2 national championship teams. Today, at the beginning of the show, we'll talk about the recap of the Alabama-Tennessee game and the history of the Alabama-LSU series. But first, let's go ahead and do the recap of the Alabama-Tennessee game, which was played in Knoxville, Tennessee on Saturday night on ESPN2. It started off with a bang with a touchdown pass of 80 yards from Blake Sims to Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper that night has set a season record, single game record of yards in a game for receiving 9 catches for 224 yards and 2 touchdowns. Alabama jumped to a 27-0 lead, and then after that they sort of, I don't know what happened, I think they just relaxed or something like that. Plus, Tennessee entered a quarterback by the name of Joshua Dobbs, a freshman quarterback, who they were going to redshirt, and maybe they now found them a quarterback because they were running the read option. And all of a sudden, Alabama was having some problems with them, and at the halftime, the score was 27-10. Then Tennessee made it 27-17, and then Alabama drove, and Derrick Henry scored on a 28-yard run to make it 34-17, and then Tennessee kicked the field goal to make it 34-20. And Alabama had an opportunity to score another touchdown with 2 minutes left in the game, but Justin Fowler fumbled the ball before going over, and the game ended up being a 34-20 win for Alabama, the 8th win in a row for Alabama, and since Nick Saban's been at Alabama, he's never lost to Tennessee. All right, we're going to talk about the history of the Alabama-LSU series. It started in 1895. The first game was on November 18th that year, and Alabama traveled to Baton Rouge, ended up losing 6-0, but Alabama has a big lead in the series, and since 1964 they've been playing each other every year. Before that they would play each other off and on, but since 1964 it's been on a continuous basis. And there's been connections with Alabama and LSU. The first coach that Alabama played in 64 was Charlie McClendon, who was an assistant and who played for Coach Bryant at Kentucky. But anyway, so what we're going to do now is we're going to talk about a game that I'm very familiar with. It was the 1979 game against LSU. Alabama was ranked number 1. This happened to be Charlie McClendon's last season down there, and they were unranked, but needless to say, they gave a great account of themselves. But the thing that was really bad, before the game started, a downpour came down, and so the conditions were real bad for both teams. But I'll tell you a couple of interesting side notes before the game started. While we were warming up, I was standing by the goalpost, and Coach Bryant was standing there, and all of a sudden he said, "Big C, get me Tommy Wilcox, the quarterback." Well, when he asked me to do that, I was willing to do it, but I got scared because I didn't want to let the man down. But anyway, I was running all over the field. Tommy Wilcox, where's Wilcox? Where's Wilcox? Found him and got him. I said, "Tommy, Coach Bryant wants you to take some snaps." And the reason why he wanted to do it, because Tommy was on defensive back the whole time he was there. Don Jacobs, the backup quarterback, got hurt the week before against Mississippi State, and he was going to use him in an emergency situation, but he did not have to do that. But Alabama and LSU had to play in some wild, wet conditions there. And I also want to tell this story before we go on that. Before the game started, LSU sort of got some rowdy fans, and this young kid, I don't know exactly how old he was. He looked like he was about 15 at the most. Was making this comment, and I'll clean it up since this is a family show. He was saying, "Bama, Bama, won't you bite my you know what?" And anyway, he just kept on saying it, and I thought, But anyway, and even after the game was over, I heard him say, "Well, they're not that good," but still, we ended up winning 3-0. But what happened though? Alabama tried 3 field goals. Finally made one of them. It was Alan McElroy making it. And also, Alabama had a chance of scoring a touchdown, but Stedman Shealy fumbled the ball on the 10-yard line going in for a score. He was on his way, and the ball just slipped out, and they recovered. And also, Mitch Ferguson was wide open on a pass, and if he caught it, I think he would have scored it. He made a long, long gain, and his feet came out from under him, and he just fell down. LSU could not get past the Alabama 40-yard line in the fourth quarter. They threw 2 interceptions around the 40-yard line, the Alabama 40-yard line, by Jim Bob Harris and Mike Clements to ice the game 3-0, and Alabama was still number 1 and stayed number 1 after that game, despite having a real close ball game with LSU, and ended up that year winning the national championship with a 12-0 record. As always, on each show, we have a trivia question and got a real interesting one here today. Name 3 Alabama head coaches that coached at another SEC school before coaching at Alabama. And what we'll be doing, we'll be back after these messages. We're going to look at the matchups between Alabama and LSU, and I'm going to be using the Coach Gene Stallings method of doing it, and it's been very, very good of doing this. It's a good way to figure out how teams will come out. But anyway, Alabama's rush defense is number 2 in the nation, will be versus LSU's rush offense that is number 26. Alabama's run offense is number 30th in the nation versus LSU's run defense of 66. Turnover margin, which Alabama is improving on but still is way high, is number 86 for Alabama, while LSU is number 37. With this being a SEC road game down in Baton Rouge, it's going to be a tough ball game, and Alabama's had hard times. The 3 times that Alabama's played LSU under Saban, they've won 2 out of 3, but one's gone into overtime, lost the next one by 3, and won the last one in with less than a minute by 4. So I'm predicting Alabama in a close one, 24-21. Earlier in the program, I asked a trivia question. The trivia question was, name 3 Alabama head coaches who coached at another SEC school before coming to Alabama. The answer is Red Drew, who coached at Ole Miss in 1946, and then at Alabama from 1947 to 54. Coach Paul Bear Bryant at Kentucky from 1946 to 53, and at Alabama from 1958 to 1982, and Nick Saban at LSU from 2000 to 2004, and at Alabama from 2007 to the present. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go into the top 10 of gradingcollegefootball.com, and it's going to be a little surprise here, but this is the way how this system works. Now, we're coming to a close for another show, and we'll have one next week. But I want to thank the following people that make this happen. Producer James Crenshaw, executive producer Robert Williamson. Also thank all of you that watch the show and tell your friends about it. Like us on Facebook, share us with your friends. Tell them to go to JockJive.com or www.JockJive.com to watch this show on YouTube. And you can watch every one of these shows so far this season, from the first one to this one. But let everybody know about it. And also on JockJive.com during the week, talking sports with Big C from 7 to 8 a.m. Central Time, and on the archive anytime after that. But anyway, I want to thank everybody for watching this show, and I also going to finish it off like we always do. Roll!